goods is of a physical, the beneficial owner of the right of the goods is in Nigeria. I have a goods, I'm in Nigeria, or the goods is situated in Nigeria and registered in Nigeria. I might be abroad, but the products I'm building is in Nigeria here, and my company is in Nigeria. As I'm eligible, so deduct, charge that VAT and deduct and remit on behalf of the government. So I'm not an agent. I'm doing services. I reside here in Nigeria. I'm eligible to deduct, charge that, and deduct and remit to the government. Also, I'm rendering services to a foreign company, but I'm here in Nigeria. That income I'm getting, I'm eligible to charge that, deduct, and remit to the government. So that is mostly your base, mostly decided by your base. But even if you're not based in Nigeria, for the source of income is here in Nigeria, mostly for goods, you have to charge that and deduct. So that another thing that some of us might not know, for something like goods, there is something that we call input and output VAT. So these are the areas that some of us might be ignorant and they'll be doing double taxation. So when you buy that particular material through which you're using to produce your goods, you have already paid VAT. Try to identify what aspects of that price you paid is VAT. And after producing the goods, you're not giving it, you're not selling it out. You also incur charge VAT for the goods you sold. So what you're going to do, you have net it off. What you're going to give to government is the net, not the total. But sometimes, because some of us doesn't know, the input VAT we bear it and we remit the 100% of the output VAT to the government. But the service doesn't have input and output. So for services, we charge based because you're using your manpower. You're not paying for extra. You're not paying for like extra manpower that you're going to use to produce to render that service. Even if you're paying for extra manpower, like you need a professional or you need extra hand, that is like an allowable expenses that you will remove from that before you now come to your personal income tax. So for services, you don't have input VAT. So what you have there is the VAT you charge on your services, you remit it 100%. So we have reduced new tax law where it's a reform around goods and services exempted from VAT, and there are also some that are zero rated. So the one that are zero rated is just to, if you can see this, as you can see the slide, they are mostly exported goods and services. What's the reason behind it? Well, government wants to encourage us to go into exportation. So this one, what it means that you charge zero VAT for them, but the VAT you pay in to get it, the input VAT, you will recover it. You input VAT you pay to render this service or to supply these goods will be recovered. But the output VAT that you are supposed to charge, you will not charge it. So it's zero rated goods and services. But for exempted means that no input VAT, no output VAT. And examples of those goods and services are basic food, medical services and equipment, educational materials, agriculture, and transport, like residential transportation service. So these are the ones, but these are the category of expenses that are allowed, that is allowed that you can actually pay zero VAT or is exempted from VAT. If you check the law, these examples are broken down into many, many sections. That's if you check the law, you can see them there. So the details of exempted ones, like I mentioned before, agriculture, basic foods, bread, all these food that you can produce by yourself, vegetables, fertilizer that is produced locally for agricultural products, veterinary medicine for animals, livestock. When you're selling your buy of livestock are not, there is no VAT attached to it. Purchase of tractors and agricultural equipment that you use for production, they are VAT exempted. Health and the health sector and the education sector that are exempted to medical and pharmaceutical products, educational books, tuition for school, so and electricity and share passenger road transport service, and specialized goods goods of humanitarian, baby products, military hardware, parts, supplies that consumed in a free trade zones and others. So these are the things so far that are within that four sections I mentioned before now that are exempted from VAT. So in case you get any of these products and any of these services and you're being charged VAT, you just notify the person, because some of us are paying VAT on things that are exempted or zero rated because you don't. So the VAT deduction and stuff. Another aspect of VAT that this new tax law gives is that it gives some person access or power to deduct tax at source. Mostly we can encounter it that when we issue an invoice, you might have encountered it, then your invoice is being paid as like, instead of paying your invoice complete one, your invoice will be paid, it will be removed, VAT will not be paid, and the withholding tax will be deducted. So at least if you encounter something like that, don't be confused. But things you need to check. Is the person that deducted it, is the person eligible? Is the person authorized by the law? Because if you don't know who is authorized and who is not authorized, anybody can deduct and they will just eat the VAT and go scot-free. You're thinking you remit the VAT, government will not get the VAT. And also, if there is any time that is called for tax audits on you also pay the VAT, because the person that deducted the VAT or the company that deducted the VAT is not eligible to deduct the VAT. So there are government MDAs are eligible, statutory bodies and public authorities are eligible. Any institution or organization or establishment that tries this that have given mandates, they're mandated by the tax officials like NRS. We give them the mandates. You can do it, but you have to mandate it. So they have to apply like something like a not yet known, but there should be like a license that approves them to do that. So now, I have more companies exempted from deducting tax at source. No, no company is exempted from deducting tax at source. Those small, both big companies, but small companies cannot deduct tax at source. They cannot deduct tax at source. And also, another thing that you should know that even the way the law is being phrased, look like they can be not exempted. The word exempted is not used, so they can be granted that the mercy of not being deducting their tax VAT at source. But just know that this judgment depends on the tax officer what will handle the case if it gets to them. So and also the circumstances around the case. So there is always, before as you're doing any transaction, anything, always think around the circumstances around it. Because if the circumstances does not justify that, then that means that even if they deduct or if not deduct, and they're supposed to deduct, as also a penalty attached to you. So this is like a tax, which I don't know, many of us might not know about this withholding tax. Withholding tax is a tax that is paid in advance. So it's the means of government collecting some of these taxes in advance before it becomes due that we, the payee, will pay the tax. The payer will pay the tax. So now we have the scope and responsibilities. Who should deduct? Anybody. Companies can deduct, individuals. This one is not like a VAT at source that some people that are eligible to deduct. Anybody can deduct withholding tax. But another thing is, as a deducting withholding tax, you have only 30 days for that money to be with you. So that withholding tax you deducted from that particular business must be remitted within 30 days. If you deduct it from that particular business, and withholding tax is not for your own business. Let's assume that somebody give you an invoice for a service rendered, and the person charge you VAT, or you not charge your VAT, you're eligible, and there are various rates. Now that is 2%. So you deduct 2% of that and remit to government on behalf of that person, the person that owns the invoice. So you're remitting that tax on behalf of that person. So if you deduct that tax and you do not remit it after 30 days, when the government will not penalize you for using their money to do business. So there is an interest attached to it. So when it's been deducted, make sure that you remit it in 30 days. On that day, you deducted to the next 30 days. So key areas that We charge withholding tax, rent and lease contract, professional fee, commission, dividend, and interest. These are like there are up to like 2 schedules that we can charge withholding tax on, but this is like a sample of what is charged. And if you want to know the rate that you're supposed to be deducting, because if you're ignorant of that, let's assume that supply of goods and material, if you're into supply of goods and material that is not being produced by you, and you not offer you not give out invoice to company or to individual for payment. If you don't know the rate, and your rate is 2%, that's supposed to be charged. Person can charge you 10%. Excuse me, that you're not being overtaxed, and the person might even remit 10% or less than 10%, so that you being ignorant or not knowing the rate, now you're paying higher of what you're supposed to pay. So it's always it should be advisable if you can get, or even if is that a question? So to know the rate that we are supposed to pay in each of the service or each of goods that we are indulging ourselves into, so that we not fall victim of paying above. We are saying that the tax law is cumbersome, you are being taxed, why you don't know, or indirectly you're even paying more than you're supposed to pay. So there are some goods, there are some services that are exempted from this withholding tax. Yeah, like as you can see on my screen, like payment made under registered trustee, securities landing transactions, like goods manufactured and the supply that person that produces it is the one that supplies it. So that's where it gets confusing sometimes. If you're the one that produces goods and you supply it, there are no withholding tax. It said if you import your goods from outside a country, no withholding tax. But just to let us know that those outside the country too have their own tax law that guides them. I have seen scenario or situations that if you're coming for like service rendering or goods, they will also implement their own tax law. And some of them have something like that seems to be like this withholding tax, but not called withholding tax. Then at a confusing stage, they always say, sometimes they will say, let everybody bear their own tax burden. So it means that the amount you invoice for should be excluding VAT, but you pay the VAT. I hope you're getting it. So at that state that you agree with your, maybe the person that is receiving the service or your person that is producing the products or goods for you, that everybody should bear their own tax burden, does not exempt you from not remitting your tax. But whether VAT, whether PIT, any of the tax that is attached to that particular product or service. So it means that I'm going to be my own tax burden. I'm going to compute what that tax should have been, and I'll remit it for myself. While the other partner will also compute and remit for himself. Things like insurance commission that is being paid to brokers are also exempted from withholding tax and others. So we are now getting to the final stage of the slide that is about company income tax. So this one is for companies majorly. I think I didn't mention it. So I think I do mention it. If you are working as an employee and you also have a side hustle, that part I don't mention it. Before I go into this company contract, if you're working as an employee and you also have a side hustle, I mentioned how employees pay their own payee at source, and also how somebody that has his own business pays his own after he deducted the deductible expenses. After deducting it, not pay it. But if you're working as an employee and you also have a side hustle, so you should know the highest rate at the company you're working with, the last rate, the last band they charge you your income on. Let's assume that the last band is on 25%. After computing your business, that your side hustle, computation, the income, and you have removed the expenses, then the profit will not charge tax on that profit using the highest tax band, which is that of 25%. We're going to use that 25% to compute tax on the profit for the business, and you remit it. You're remitting it as because it's a business name, because it's not a company. So you're remitting it to state inland revenue as a personal, as their personal income tax. But if you're a company, now there is an exemption for companies. Before now, the small companies revenue is 25 million. But this new tax law widen it, just take it to 100 million. So if your revenue turnover in a year is less than 100 million, you're not eligible to pay tax. You are exempted. But that does not mean that if you collect tax on behalf of government, because as I mentioned, withholding tax and VAT, everybody is an agent, is eligible to collect it on behalf of government and remit it. So it does not mean that when you collect tax on behalf of government, you should eat it. No. Even if your business is a small business, when you collect tax on behalf of the government, you still remit it. So what are the things that there are two factors that we check to know whether your business is a small business or not? One, as I've mentioned, the turnover being less than 100 million in a year. Then the second one is your assets. The asset base being less than or being at 250 million or less. So even if your turnover is less than 100 million, your asset base is 250 million, you are not a small company. So you're eligible to pay tax. Or even if your asset base is less than and your turnover is more than 100, you're not a small company eligible to pay tax. These two must merge before you can be categorized as a small company, and you can be exempted from paying tax. Also, there are other things that this new tax law brought that try to streamline some of the taxes, small tax, basic taxes that we pay. Another one is one of the things that they brought is development levy. This development levy is now being paid starting from say 4%. If you have stable profits, no tax is being paid on a 15-year basis. A stable profits for the year 2025 and 2026 tax year. As it's going 2027, it's now reduced to 3%. 2030, it has to be reduced to 1%. Another one that is income tax, that be 30% of your profit. Another one is the minimum tax. Before minimum tax, at the end of everything, my business does not make profit. So am I supposed to pay tax? They will call it, there's something called minimum tax. So you have been exempted. So like a new business can be exempted for 4 years, and they're given the grace to stay out of, not to pay tax for 4 years. Now that, excuse me. Okay, your business is not to pay tax for 4 years, after 4 years. So now and I'm still making loss. There's something that before it's always 0.5% of your turnover. But now there are many criteria that will be put in place, but now the percentage is 15%. But there are still criteria that should be checked before that to be charged. So say minimum tax exemption, as I mentioned, is for startups. You are still within your 4 years of operation and you're making loss. So you're exempted. But after 4 years, you charge minimum tax on you. Then companies that are into primary agricultural activities are also exempted. And we are now at the tail end of this section. Which takeaway from this section, or like a concluding talk on this section before we now enter into like question and answer section, is like with this new tax reform, it focuses on compliance and transparency. As we might feel bad because we have not encountered scenarios where when we are being duped, you understand, with tax law. So, but we understanding the tax law is more transparent than what we have before, and also it's more simplified. And now, like I know Lagos now has make a system. You can just do it at your home. Just log into the system, pay your tax. Understand? Therefore, it's not a relief for within new tax law. You have a relief for the um, beginners, low income earners, small businesses. There's like a relief to for them to grow. Just that new tax law is like the bigger, the higher you pay, the smaller the less you pay. That's just what it's all about. So if you're able to understand this new tax law and they comply with, as I mentioned before, documentation. Documentation is very, very important, even in our lives as an individual, not only in business. So as you're just doing transaction from your bank statements, don't be leaving them blank. It's always good to put the narration section so that in case that you're filing your return at the end of the year, you can remember what those expenses are and you can claim them back instead of paying tax on them. Because if it's not justified, if it is not necessary incurred or wholly incurred, you can't take it as from your income. So there is room for or advisable for us to always um, maintain a clean documentation that will help us to claim some of well, almost all of our expenses. Reason why many companies cannot or many individuals didn't claim their expenses is if you cannot justify it. If there is nothing that can back it, that can justify that this expenses is carried out for the motive of this income that I got it for. It's not for personal use. Then it means that it's not allowable expenses. So at this point, we'll be entering into Q&A section. Do you have any question? I think
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Sherry. If I enjoyed the session, Sherry just delivered. It should also send some reactions, as I've been able to, learn one thing or two from what she has said so far, right? So, quick one, before we go ahead to the kind of sorry, Q&A session, I would like to inform us that for the participants who are on this call, there's a free gift that will be gifted to us that will help us, filing our tax in a very much better way. It's a technology solution from Authorized Integrated from our door. So stay close to the session, stay close to today's session while we announce how you get that free gift. Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Sherry, for your presentation. I believe once again that insight has been shared, and most of us have been able to understand how the tax system actually works. She has been able to break it down from the first process and the types of tax that we do pay, and when to pay, and when to also know that, oh, we shouldn't pay beyond the tax that is expected to be paid. She has also made mention of the need for us to document our transactions, as they are very important when filing our tax. All right. So more, and she has shared more other details, which I believe every one of us know. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. Why we ask Mrs. Shiri about them. But before we ask questions from the chat, I would like to ask some questions that we already have from our participants who who have chosen this session as the answer to those questions. So one somebody is saying, I have a registered business with a TIN, but I don't know my tax identification ID for filing. How can I retrieve or regularize this and proceed with my tax filing? Would you like to answer that, ma'am, Mrs. Sherry?
all right.
Hello, Prince, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I think it's the network from our side.
Okay, Mrs. Sherry, if you can hear us, we can't hear you at the moment. I think that's a network issue from my hand. Um, okay, while we're waiting for her to rejoin, would like to quickly proceed to the next session that we have for today, which is the technology aspect of today's session, mitigating tax risks in Nigeria. So Mrs. Sherry has been able to talk about the e-invoicing and the need for structured accounting of tax. So we are now trying to present to us how you can digitally record or file your tax in a very much seamless way that is very easier. Oh, Miss Sherry, can you hear me? Can you hear us now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, all right, all right.
Okay.
So
So, for the question, person asked, he said he registered a business, he has a TIN number, it's
I'm
not
sorry, the
active.
audio is not audible enough from your end, Miss Sherry.
Can you hear me now? Is
Yes,
it
it
better
is.
now?
Yeah, it's better now. It's
Okay.
better now.
So the person was asking that he registered a business, he has TIN number, which is for the business, and he's asking for his own tax ID, I believe. So the tax ID
Yeah.
is personal. If he's talking of business,
Okay.
it's a TIN number. If he's talking of an individual, it's a tax ID. So depending on his location, has he registered before?
One moment, ma'am.
Yes.
Sorry. The audio is a bit is showing is cracking.
Can you
So I
hear
think
me?
there's some background noise from your end. I can adjust.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for that. So
All right.
as I was saying, I said that TIN number is for the company or for the business name. Then tax ID is
Okay.
for individual person. So he has gotten his TIN number for the company. So anything or for the business name that he registered. For anything I want to remit on behalf of the business. So if it's a business name, what is eligible to remit is only VAT for the business. But if it's for company, it's eligible to remit VAT and company income tax. So it's not asking of how you can get his tax ID. So has he registered before? If he has not registered, he should just go, depending on his location. If he's in Lagos, he can do it online through the portal. Then if he's not in Lagos, the person is in other states, he can just walk into it, their state inland revenue with your passport, that's your passport picture, and your NIN. They will give you a form you fill and they register it because that most states are still doing manual registration. I think Abuja is also doing online registration. So even people that are doing online registration, if you still walk into their state inland revenue, they can still register you. So the person should either register online or walk into the state inland revenue and register. After the registration, you get your tax ID. With that tax ID, you can remit your personal income tax. And then companies or individual can also remit withholding tax for you.
All right. Good, ma. Thank you very much for that answer, which I believe has answered the question. So teen is different from uh uh your tax certification ID is individual, why you have to register your business ID in a different way. You either go to your state government if they have online portal, or you have to go there physically. So thank you very much for that question. And let's take question from the chat. Um, so somebody is asking, what's the difference between annual returns and filing tax? The difference between annual returns and filing tax. Would you like to answer that, man? You are muted, man.
Okay, thank you for that. So annual return is done once in a year. As you can see from this reform, tax reform, they say it will be done 90 days after 31st December. So we just calculate approximately that should be 31st March. So it's done once in a
Okay.
year. So it's all about is you have to accumulate because it's already as in like it's your filing return is for the previous years. So you have to sit down and calculate all your incomes that came in from January to December, you declare it. You have to build it like you build a report on the income, then also build reports on expenses that are kind of exempted. Then you now go, depending on if it's online that your state is filing, you go into the portal and file it. Then if it's not online, it's what you call offline, that's manual own, they call it declaration. You fill the declaration. Declaration is also the same thing that you're doing online. But tax filing is done monthly. So you're expected to be paying, computing your tax, file it, and pay every month. Then at the end of the year, you compile everything together. And during that process of compiling everything together, if there are ones that you miss, that you did not file, at that same time, you can actually file it, compile it together. The that can summarize everything that you have done to the year and declare. That's why it's called return. But the filing is done every month.
All right, ma. Thank you very much for that answer. Quick one before we go to other questions for Mrs. Sherry, ma. Um, I would like to invite Mr. Prince Dumere, who is a solution engineer and also a system integrator expert from Authorite, to also have the technology solution that you can use to that will make the filing of tax much more seamless for you, and also talk about some other solutions. I mean, technology solutions that make things easier for you in the whole landscape of taxing. So within 5 minutes, Mr. Prince will share that, and after we should talk about the gift that I made mention earlier for every participant of today's session. Go ahead, Mr. Prince, please.
All right, thank you very much. And thank you to Mrs. Chinere. That session was very insightful. All right, so straight to it. The conversation that we've been having today, it points to one truth. So the rules of the engagement in taxes in Nigeria, the rules of the engagement has changed. And it is not the policy that has changed, because these policies have been on ground a long time ago. These policies are not new. So what has changed is the mode of enforcement. So the strategy which the government is using to enforce these policies is what has changed, right? So, and it affects everyone in Nigeria, either you're doing business or earning or staying in Nigeria. It affects every single person, right? So please permit me to share my screen, and then we'll just go straight into it. So please confirm you can see the screen that I'm sharing.
Yes, you can see that it's loading. Go ahead, please.
So can you see the screen I'm sharing now?
Yes, we can see it, please. The screen just went off now. You have to just probably reshare.
Okay, so let me do a share. Let me share the screen again. Please confirm you can see it now.
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, you can see it now, right? Okay, so now the main agenda of this technology section is the Nigerian digital tax landscape, then the invoicing structured accounting, that's for the NRS, the Federal Land Revenue Services, then the solutions that Authorite Integrated presents. And then we're going to share a video on the step-by-step, especially for those in Lagos, how to file, right, on the portal. Then we'll take a quick Q&A. So the Nigerian digital tax landscape. First, the mandatory invoicing. So the Federal Land Revenue Services now requires electronically structured invoices for all VAT registered businesses, right, to be transmitted directly to the tax platform. So it's going digital, right? And then now there's a session for real-time reporting. So one thing I want to mention is now the revenue houses, they are not waiting for people and businesses to file their taxes, declare any amounts they like. Now they are going to be matching, they are going to be checking, they're going to be comparing business transaction with bank statement, right? So one thing that we have observed is that the businesses that suffer from some of these things, it's not that they are trying to evade taxes. They are not trying to evade taxes, but their systems are still manual in a way that, like Mrs. Kinyere mentioned when she was speaking, some businesses are double paying taxes. Some businesses are not doing the right deductions that they ought to do. Some businesses that are not even supposed to be paying tax at all because of the amount they are making currently. They might still be paying tax, right? And because of systems. So the e-invoicing and the structured accounting. So you have to know what e-invoicing is first. So it's electronically issued invoices in a structured format. And then structured accounting, the charts of accounts aligned to the revenue houses standards. So now Mrs. Chinere also mentioned the risk of non-compliance. The penalties involved, right? The restricted operations, the business can be restricted from operating if they are found not complying to the regulations. And then the technological integrations, removing the confusion. So someone also mentioned in the chat that it's confusing. Sometimes it's overwhelming. So technology integrations can reduce this confusion entirely, right? And there are so many ways it can be done, from cloud centralization, secure documents, automated VAT and withholding taxes, AI compliance and monitoring, right? And we have a service in Authorite that can help you calculate your taxes just by you prompting it, just chatting with it on WhatsApp, right? Just tell it how much you earn, tell it every information you need to know, tell it your rent, it will calculate your taxes for you. So you don't really need to know a lot of accounting to be able to file your tax as an individual. So I'm going to share that later on in this training, right? So now these are some of the solutions. So the first one is the NRS revenue solution. So when you go to the NRS portal, there is a section where you select the ERP you use. So this is for businesses, right? There's a section where you select the revenue, the ERP that you use. So Authorize has a solution that integrates to this portal that you can use, and you can currently start registering for the wait list. So this is what the portal is about. It's an integrator application that links your accounting or your ERP systems directly to the FIRS revenue systems for federal tax filing. It automates your VAT, your company income taxes, your withholding return, and then generation and submission. So this solution helps you with that. So now this is the solution I was talking about, the tax WhatsApp bot by Authorite. So many of the questions that some people have asked here already, or some of the questions that you might still have to ask, Authorite Integrated has a WhatsApp chatbot that you can tell all these things, and it will give you responses instantly, right? So let me see if I can reshare my screen. So I want to just do a short demo of that, because that is quite important now. So you see it, because I know so many people still have questions. We still have a lot of questions. So this bot can answer all your questions. So I'm currently sharing that screen. So this is the bot, the Tax Gist by Authorite Integrated. So you can chat directly with this bot. So I can say, so I'm chatting with this bot directly now. Then I'll just get some questions that I have on ground already, right? So now this is what it's asking me. Welcome to Tax Gist. I help Nigerian individuals, blah, 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 right? So please select your category. So now let me go as an individual. So if I go as an individual, I'm chatting with this bot live. Then so now it asks now, you're set up as an individual. How can I help you today? So let me get some questions and prompt this bot, because I know so many of us still have questions. So with this bot, you can ask your questions directly to this bot and it gives you answers. So let me give it a question here. So let me ask you this question. Say, as an individual, what are the requirements to file my taxes? So I'm going to ask this question. Let me see how it responds. Right. So it responds to you based on the prompts you give it. So this is one of the services by Authorite that we can have some of us in this webinar today test. So now these are the responses. So it's a great question, right? Based on the official LRS e-tax filings, here are the key requirements. So it tells me the documents that I need. It tells me who must file their taxes. You have to be salaried, so you are earning an income. Self-employed individuals, freelancers, business owners, professionals. So this is just a question. I'm just trying to ask a question, right? So now let's go deeper. Let me ask it another question that many of us can relate with. So now, as a small business owner, right, what are the things I need to know about taxes? Because one of the key issues we are having about these tax issues is just ignorance, knowledge, right? The knowledge gap is just one of the main issues we're having. So I'm prompting this bot now that I'm a small business owner. It should tell me the things that I need to know about taxes. And let's see the responses that it will give. So after this, I'm going to give it figures now, so to calculate my tax for me. So these are the recommendations that it gives, right? Tax benefits for small businesses. So annual turnover below 50 million naira, tax fixed assets, the value added tax requirement. It gives me the requirements, the compliance essentials, the records, the rates. So these are the information it's giving me live. I'm doing this live on this chatbot. So let me give it one more here. I want to give it figures now so it can calculate my tax for me. So let me give it this. I want to give it something complex. Let's see how well this bot can do. So this is the chart I'm giving it now, the prompt I'm giving it. I earn 400,000 monthly, but my company handles and pays my payee, right? I also make an extra 400,000 aside my salary. Can you help me calculate my tax filing? So I'm prompting this bot directly and see what it's doing. It's calculating my taxes for me already. So I really didn't need to know a lot of accounting. I didn't need to know the formulas to use. This bot is giving me directly. So when you get this, you can compare. You can compare some of the figures. So it's giving me my annual gross. That's giving me my annual gross based on the 400,000 that I give it, right? So this is a very wonderful solution by Authorite Integrated that can help you in your tax journey, either as an individual or as a business, while you come into the digital frame, right? While you begin to make your books more digitalized. So this is one of the solutions that we also have at Authorite Integrated. And we're going to give the opportunity to those that are in this webinar today to test this, right? We're going to give you an opportunity to test this because it helps you in almost every single way, as individuals, as small business owners, even as established business owners. This is going to help you a lot. So let me just share my screen again. So other services that we have what we call Hive. So Hive is a fully featured learning management system. It's an LMS. So if you have businesses, individuals that need services like this is also one of the services that Authorite Integrated has already. Then we have Vote Expert. This is a digital voting application for individuals or organizations, for associations, institutions. You always have elections every now and then, right? And you want it to be smooth. You don't want people going around, flying up and down. Authorite Integrated has a solution and bridge that gap for you. We also have what we call the battery as a service, right? This is a battery as a service, a managed power infrastructure solution that ensures that your operations and your servers, your compliance systems never go offline. We all know now the power system in Nigeria is not very stable. Everybody is going to solar, and solar is an investment that you will most likely not regret if done well, right? So Authorite Integrated has a service for that helps you operate without downtime. Subscription model, remote monitoring, and it's easily scalable. You can start small and then you can increase the capacity with time. Then we have the CCTV cloud storage, which is a cloud-based CCTV surveillance platform with AI recognition. and it replaces traditional DVR system with secure, remote, accessible cloud. So you can access it remotely. You can be in Abuja, for example, and you can see what's going on in your business in Lagos or in any other states, right, in Nigeria or any other place. You can also do that, right? So we will share a link on the step-by-step process, especially for businesses and individuals in Lagos State, on how to file your tax. So these are just some of the services that we offer. We have other services that we offer at Authorized Integrated, both as it relates to taxation and other services like the power and so on and so forth. So thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Abolaji. Mr. Abolaji, you're muted. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Prince, for that. And that was a very great one. So for people who would like to know about some of our solutions and who would like to join the wait list of some of our solutions, so I get to you get to know about it when it's live, and you can use this for your businesses or for your company to, to automate things for to improve efficiency, as mentioned by Prince. A lot of solutions that Autorat actually has in their arsenal. So you can actually check the website I just dropped in the chat for you to see all of these services that Autorat provides. Also, I'll also be sharing the link for the WhatsApp chat bot, which is Tax Gist by Autorat Integrated, of which you can play with. It's an AI chat bot. You can ask a lot of questions about tax related. So it will definitely answer. And to a quick one before we call it a day, we'd like to give the mic back to Mrs. Sherry for some people who still have some questions. So, Ms. Sherry, if you see here, ma, somebody is asking here that, please, I have a business registered with CAC, but for now, it's not making profits or running properly. How do I file my tax considering I'm yet to be making profit? Could you answer that, Mrs. Sherry? Thank you. Hello, Mrs. Sherry, can you hear me?
So, that your business is not making profit or is not even generating revenue, does not prevent you from filing your tax. So, as I mentioned before, I said that there is penalty for not filing, and also there is penalty for filing wrong amounts, incorrect amounts. So, if you're not generating any revenue, every month you have to go to NRS portal and file your VAT return that is filed monthly. Then at the end of the year, there's something we call, if you have not started business, there's something we call statement of affairs. So you have to prepare that statement of affairs and file. But if you have started business, just that you're not generating revenue, still the same thing, statement of affairs. If you're not profitable, you prepare your income statement and all that and upload. Then you not be, because you are not profitable, you'll not be paying PIT, personal income tax, but you have filed. So the filing of return is necessary. Whether you're profitable, whether you're making generating revenue, anything, you can file here. So it's mandatory.
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Shinyori. She has said that filing is important and is mandatory for all businesses, even though you are not making your money yet. So, the last question we'd like to ask Mrs. Shinyori before she goes is that, okay, what are the most common errors that businesses actually make during tax filing, and how can they be avoided? And another question that I would like you to answer it together for the first one is we have basically on this call we have most small medium businesses available on this call, owners, small medium enterprise owners, right? So we would like to know what is the simplest way to start filing taxes correctly without like making costly mistakes, most especially at NRS level, at the federal level.
I got the short on the second one, but should I go ahead or should just can you rephrase the second question?
Yeah, so the second question is like we want to business owners are on this call, right? So we want to ensure that they actually get the simplest way, I mean the simplest way of filing your tax correctly without making, mistakes, costly mistakes. So if you could like share some knowledge around that.
Okay, so the first one is say what are the common mistakes that tax owners make while filing their tax? Um, the common mistake I've seen tax owners make is like under declaring
Yes.
their revenue. When you under declare your revenue, because it feels like if you not declare the right figure, you'll be paying less tax. You understand? Not knowing that the allowable expenses write off, that's if you have allowable expenses at the end, the business might not even be profitable, so you under declaring it now, you're not incurring to, because I mentioned it because that's on incorrect amount filed is charged as CBN interest rates, and it's being calculated every month. So let's assume that you just filed for last year, so every month on the undeclared part of that revenue will be bearing interest. Anything that the tax office, and that when a tax office, when they want to carry out like tax audits on individual on companies, always 6 years backward. And that's on the fifth year, your case now came up. So you now have to start paying tax on what you have paid for like 5 years. So you have an idea of like, yeah, these expenses are allowable expenses. So what's the reason for under declaring your revenue? That's one. The second one I've seen is not knowing expenses are allowable. If you're filing your tax now in NRS, there are some expense line that you put, they automatically not recognize it for your tax computation because it's not allowable. So if you don't know and you're spending money on that expense line, there's something we call tax evasion and tax evasion. So these two things, like you know the law and you know how to manage your income and your expenses to fit in the law. You understand? Then you'll be paying less tax. But if you don't know the law and you're looking for how to dodge it, you'll be paying more. So it's like it should be advisable to know the law, and depending on what you are into, it's also advisable to involve an external person, a professional, a consultant, or even study the law. You can do it yourself to prepare reports for you, or even use the software as we have produced here, as we have showed here, as we have shown here, to prepare your statements before filing, so that you can actually avoid those expenses or all those risky mistakes. Another thing I think I've encountered is when you're filing on online and you um, mistakenly declare something like or impute wrong figure in wrong spaces. Like there is a format for filing that online. So if you don't know the format, you can actually end up having like, and there is always a review at the end of the format. So if you know the format and know there is a review, and I can go back to correct any mistake you see at the end. People always pay higher when they don't know. As in, I've seen somebody that pay higher because at the end they will show you this is what you're going to pay. But if you know that this is, as if you have done your own manual calculation and know that this is not what you're going to do, you have to go back and review every data you input in the NRS or LRS portal to be sure that that is actual, and that at a point I've filed for several companies, and you pick up, you'll be able to pick up that yes, this one is not correct. So when you use our software as we showed you to do your personal computation, to know, have an idea of what you have to pay before you now go into NRS portal to do your filing, you have an idea of if you are being overcharged, you know, because any money you paid into as tax cannot be returned back to you. The only money you can get back from government that you pay as tax is withholding tax. And getting it back, the way you get it back is you use it to offset. You use it to offset your PIT, your CIT. So any other one mistake you make and you paid it has gone. So the second one you asked me was small companies. I think I've answered that. Small companies what?
Yeah, so oh sorry. Yeah, small medium businesses that the simplest way they can actually file their tax. I think you already answered that earlier. Thank you very much, Mrs. Sherry, for your time, for being with us ever since we started the session, and for the insight you've been able to share with us. So, um, I would like to continue with Mr. Prince. Could you, there are some questions that we have here about technology, uh, technology solutions for filing your tax. So I would like to ask you, most especially in the federal level, where we are interacting with the NRS, the National Revenue Service. So how do you think businesses can actually transition from manual accounting processes to a structured digital system without disrupting operations while filing on the NRS portal? Do you get that, Mr. Prince?
Yeah, please come again with the question.
Yeah, hello, Prince. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I said, please come again with the question.
All right. So I'm asking, I'm asking that how can businesses transition from manual accounting process to structured digital process, without disruption, without disrupting their operations while filing for the federal government tax, I mean, at the NRS level?
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, and Mrs. Chinwe has also reiterated, most of the issues that businesses are having, it's not because they are trying to evade tax. It's just because most of them don't have proper books, right? So digital systems like from simple Excel spreadsheets to applications like what Authorized Integrated provides, like ERP softwares, like like if you go to the NRS portal, for example, there's a section where you have to select the ERP you use, either QuickBooks, Zoho Books, Sage Cloud, right? So using those kind of ERP, right, it brings your accounting and your books in one place. Funny enough, there are even some free ERPs like this that you can use. Some of them are very cheap that you can use. So your day-to-day business, you put everything inside. So when it's time to file your taxes, you don't start struggling. You don't start looking for your books, right? You have them in one place. So by using from simple workbooks, simple sheets to simple ERPs to advanced ERPs, it helps businesses a lot to transit. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Prince. Would you like to also talk about the authorized integrated coming into this matter in terms of the technology solution that they provide as a system integrator?
Oh, yes. So let me talk about that as well. So now, when you're filing your books on the portal, especially for organizations, right? There's always a template to use. So most of the times you download the templates, then you update the templates with your information. So even though the government has provided a level of digitalization, you still have to download and manually fill, right? But with a solution like what Authorized Integrated provides as an integrator, so you already have a solution that handles your business day to day, right? So when it's time to file, there is already an API connection that automatically prepares your book in line with compliance. So another issue that businesses have is when they file, the government rejects maybe because of an error or something, and they keep doing it, and it gets frustrating. So with the kind of solution that Authorized Integrated provides, it becomes seamless. There's already a connection. There's already a standard that is being adhered to. So it makes things easier for the business, right? And it's also saved the business a lot of money because you avoid the fines from every angle, right? So that's what I have to say concerning that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prince. So I would like to quickly, talk about the WhatsApp tax chatbot that was earlier presented. So for those that are interested in checking the bot, you could check it with the link I'll be providing in the chat now. So you can you can try on your hand, chat with the tax bot and see how authorized integrated is making things easier for businesses. So that's the link there. It's tax JIT by authorized integrated. Message it, ask it questions that you might want to ask. Somebody is asking that can the recordings of the webinar shared? Yes, so the recordings of this webinar will be shared. We are currently live on YouTube, so the recordings are available on YouTube for you to check what we discussed earlier. We want to appreciate everyone who has actually wait till this moment. We want to also appreciate Mrs. Shiri for also sharing her insights into how you can structure your accounting for tax compliance, and she has also talked about compliance issues, as to regard tax, right? So if you have any further questions, like you would like to ask us, you can also contact us at info@authorizedintegrated.com if you want us to deploy some solutions for your businesses, or you find interest in one of the solutions that have been presented so far in today's call. You can reach out to us at info@authorizedintegrated.com. That has also been shared. We appreciate everyone who has joined us for today's session. Thank you very much, Mr. Prince and Mrs. Shinere, who has also addressed some of our questions. If you have any other questions, our chatbot is there for you to ask. And look forward to any of our webinars that will be coming up very soon. Thank you very much, everyone who has joined. And I think we'll drive towards the end of today's session. And good day, good night, everyone, and have a blessed day and every day. Thank you very much. I remain Abolaji Abramon, a solution engineer from Authorized Integrated. Thank you.